This is Rob Tebbutt for ID Boxing, and it is my pleasure to be joined by the former two-time undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. It's Big Daddy Bowe, Riddick Bowe. We're here in Acapulco, Mexico. Riddick, we spent a lot of time together this week. How are you?
Absolutely. I'm doing pretty good. How you be?
I'm very well, thanks. Very well. I think it's the end of a long week for all of us, and I think we're looking to... As much as Mexico's been a beautiful place and we've all had a great time, I think it's home time soon, champ.
Absolutely. I'm ready to get about this camp. Time is up.
So tell us about this week in Acapulco. What have you been doing while you've been here?
Well, doing what I'm doing now, I'm pretty much talking to the people and having a good time. I went to this meeting, I went to that. I went to a lot of meetings this week. So it's been phenomenal, but as you would say, it's time to go home.
Well, we won't keep you for too long here. We're just going to have a little run back through your life.
Well, thanks for the one.
A little run back through your life and, of course, your boxing career. And I'm sure all of our ID boxing audience are going to be keen to hear what Big Daddy's got to say. So with that in mind, let's go back to the very beginning. We had a meal this week where we discussed some of your early life growing up in Brooklyn, in New York. What was it like growing up in Brooklyn?
Well, it was, I guess, me as a kid, I didn't know no better, but to me, I had such a great time. I got 12 brothers and sisters, and I'm next to the youngest. So I didn't have to clean up much, and I ate good, and they would go out and whatever, and then I'd be in the house by myself, me and my sister, man, we just had a ball as kids. And I can remember leaving the house, but if you bothered me, my sisters and brothers, they would begin to fight whoever, and it was such a nice time for me as a kid.
It's strange to think, we know you as one of the best heavyweights in history, but it's strange to think of a time where Riddick Bowe needed his older brothers and sisters and they were there to look after you.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. They beat me up a couple of times, too. And you don't understand, like the way I was rolling and stuff like that, I got it because I had to protect myself when I was little. I had to protect myself. Like I could be standing, somebody backhand me, and I had to, catch it or whatever. So, because my brothers and sisters, a lot of things in boxing I did, they made me a much better fighter because of what they would do to me sometimes.
Aside from fighting with your brothers and sisters, when did you first decide that you wanted to take up boxing?
Well, one day I was in school, teacher brought a tape in about Muhammad Ali, and she said that we had to do an essay. So I listened to Ali, but there was another kid in the class who liked Joe Frazier. And he said that he thought that Ali could beat Joe Frazier. I said, man, you must be crazy. You must be talking about your mama. He said, man, you talking about my mama? Yeah, I'm talking about your mama. And he got one to fight, and we fought for like an hour. The teacher ran out to get help. When she got back, guess what? A new child was born, and that's how I got into boxing.
Do you remember the first time you walked into a boxing gym?
Yes, sir. Without question, I walked into a PL boxing club because the teacher called for me to go there. And as I got there, they didn't want to hear nothing about me and whatever, so I felt real bad. So I left there, and as I was about to get on the bus, I could see there's a gym across the street. It was called the Best Stop Boxing Club. And I went across the street, man. They treated me like they had known me. Hey, man, you could be champ, you could be this. Yeah, man, I had a ball that day, and I've been boxing ever since.
Growing up in New York, New York has produced some great fighters, some great heavyweights, and of course, somebody that you know very well, Mike Tyson, also from New York. And you were, you knew each other, didn't you? You growing up, you were kind of
school.
Yeah.
But we had no idea that we would fight each other or we would be in the same field at some point. So I guess with that being the case, we never thought about it.
Did you know Mike? Did you speak with him when you were younger?
Absolutely. We went to the same school, but we never had classes together. And I would see him, he would see me, very respectful and things of that nature.
What was Mike like when he was a young kid?
Mike was quiet. I didn't really didn't hear him speak anything. He was just quiet. He would look at certain things, and he had certain people he would talk to. I guess those were his friends and things of that nature.
Before we talk about your boxing career, you also had a admittedly short-lived career in the military.
In the Marine Corps, yes, sir. Well, you want to know how that, what happened with that? Well, you know, I always wanted to be, I want to be a Marine if I want to be a fighter. And because I retired early, I said, well, let me try something I always wanted to do. And I went into the Marine Corps, but it didn't work out. There was a drill instructor there who was laughing because it was me, and he had me doing certain things. And I said, wait a minute, I don't want to be insubordinate, but why am I doing this and you laughing? You're not supposed to be laughing. Well, do this. I'm not doing it. And then they sent me home.
What do you think that was? Do you think that's just because you wanted to make a point? You're Riddick Bowe, you're former heavyweight champion of the world. Is that what happened?
Pretty much, but the thing is, you're not gonna put me in a predicament where you're gonna play with me until, laugh and think it's okay. And I guess because I told myself I should go tell his superiors what he's doing, so he got me out of there.
So back to the boxing. I want to talk about your amateur career, and most notably the Olympics in 1988. What are your recollections? What are your memories of the Olympics in '88?
Well, up until the Lennox Lewis, but I had a ball, man. And I knew everybody, and everybody treated me well. It was nice. I thought that when I fought Lennox Lewis, it would just be another knockout, no problem. But he turned out to be strong and a little wiser. I didn't know he had more experience than me. That happened to be his second Olympic. So he but I believe the referee, he didn't do his job like he was supposed to. But I mean, it is what it is. But I wanted to fight Lennox out as a professional, and every time I tried to get him, he came up with an excuse.
That Olympic final, how difficult was that to stomach? I mean, you're a winner. Most fighters are winners. You don't think about second place, but you came up short in that final. Was that difficult for you to deal with?
No, I mean, I've lost before. I've been there, experienced it. Even take the Golden Glove. My first year in the Golden Gloves is pretty much the same thing. But I mean, sometimes you gotta learn to take the bad with the good, and that's what it was. Now, I don't think as a professional, the Lennox thought or the referee thought I would be there. I was right there.
I want to talk to you about your trainer, the legendary Eddie Futch. Remember the time you first met Mr. Futch?
Oh yeah, that was the best day of my life, man. I met Eddie first. He didn't laugh, he didn't play. This is what I want you to do. I want you to be here this time, so on and so forth. And that's what it was. Whatever he said, that's what I did. I did it how many times he wanted me to do it, and then the time because he didn't play. So I was there. I remember that.
What made him such a great trainer? What did he teach you? How did he bring you on and develop you as a fighter?
Well, he would tell me to do something, and he would watch me. And if I did it wrong, no, don't do it that way, do it this way. Put a little more ump into the hole. Throw it straight at right hand. Whatever the case may be, he would analyze you and look at you and tell you how your feet are they're not in the right place. So you got to do it like this and do it like that. And put all that together and doing it for a million times, it just made me a much better fighter.
Now, one of the things that you're most known for is your ability to fight inside as a big man. You're a big man, you're the big daddy, but you can fight on the inside like a featherweight or a lightweight. Where did you learn how to fight on the inside?
Well, what happened was one day I saw the middleweights boxing, and I seen a guy doing that. He was on the inside, and I said, wow, think about it. If I can do that, I think I will be phenomenal. So I kept doing it, I picked it up, and everybody loved that I could do that because I was so big. There was a part that I could do that. So that's how that happened.
Do you think that was your biggest strength as a fighter, your ability to fight inside?
See, what I think is the thing people didn't realize I could think. And because I can think, I can figure out what to do and how to change situations. I'll give you an example. Let's go with the third fight with Holyfield. Now I'm thinking, well, I know he's ahead on the scorecard. He had already knocked me down. but he didn't think I could think. Well, I'm sitting in the corner, and I can feel him looking at me. So the guy in front of me, I had to look around him and see him. And when I looked at him, he winked at me. Okay, Jeff. Okay, Jeff. So now he really made me talk to him. I said, what can I do different that's going to throw him off? And it came to me. Throw a lead right hand. So we'll jab him. And then we pulled, had a little breath. Man, I threw a right hand so hard. And when they hit him, I was surprised. He went down and it was what it was. But I did something different and he wasn't ready for that.
Now, Sunday is 30 years since your first world title win against Evander Holyfield, that great night. You were 25 years old. You got the world heavyweight titles around your waist. Just describe that feeling for me.
Oh, man. I think what it was made me happy was that I could see my mama. Excuse me. And it made her so happy. And it was just a great night for me just to see my mother, and I made her happy. So that was a good thing for me.
Now, we spoke about your mother the other night when we were at dinner, and what a woman she was. I mean, you have to be a hell of a woman to raise 13 kids, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But see, my mother, my personality is like my mother. She was, if she could help you, she would help you, and she was just such a great person.
Back to the fight with Evander, that first fight. Now, one of the most iconic rounds in the history of heavyweight boxing is that 10th round with you and Evander.
Right.
What do you remember from that round?
I remember fighting with him and whatnot, and I was just trying to outthink him. What about him with the other cut? Should I come up with a hook? And he was thinking the same thing. That's why I believe that round became so phenomenal. Either one of us wanted to give up on where we stood, so that's why it was such a great round.
He was a naturally smaller man than you. Were you surprised that he was able to take the shots that he took from you, particularly in that fight?
Well, I wouldn't say, I'm going to tell you something people don't know. I've always trained with Evander Holyfield. We always trained with each other, boxing 12 bigs and Evander Holyfield and whatnot throughout his professional career. So when we fought each other, we knew each other so well. That's why I think the fight was so great.
The rematch. Now, the rematch was an interesting fight. Obviously, you came up short in that rematch, but I think it's probably most well known for what happened outside the ring.
The fan, man. But I got to tell you something. In all honesty, I'm not a sore loser, but I truly believe I should have maintained the title at that particular point. But God is good. We fought it a third time, and look what happened. I'm the first guy to set him up. How you like me now, baby? He's probably the first guy to knock him out.
You certainly were. But back to that rematch, the fan man. Now, of course, there was two of you. Well, there's three of you in the ring, including the referee. But the fan man came from behind you, so you didn't see him coming to you.
I could see Holyfield, and I was so afraid to look behind me. Because if I look behind me, I'm thinking he would hit me. And so I thought he was trying to fool me and set me up. So I never saw the fan man.
How much did that affect you in that fight? Because the fight was stopped, there was a commotion, it was...
And I waited for, 45 minutes for them to get the people out of the ring. I was freezing. So actually, when the fight started again, I didn't want to fight. I was done. I think they should have called it. If I didn't win, they should have called it a draw because it was too cold to fight.
I mentioned earlier about the Olympic final with Lennox Lewis. What was it like losing your heavyweight titles?
Heavyweight titles. Well, it was harder to lose the heavyweight titles because I guess they meant more. But I guess as a man, all I can do was just roll with the punches. You know what I mean? I don't feel like it was fair to me, but I mean, it's life. Things ain't fair in life sometimes.
They had some iconic moments both inside and outside of the ring. Now, one of the moments that sticks in my head when people talk about Riddick Bowe was the infamous face-off with Larry Donald.
Yeah, well, people couldn't hear Larry, but I could hear him loud and clear. I said, Larry, please stop playing with me at one point. Then I said, Larry, stop playing with me. And then he said, what you gonna do about it, Ribby? That's when you seen me hit him with a left hook right hand. I see he started playing with my name. He listen to what I'm saying. He said, what you gonna do about it, Ribby? And that's what happened. Because my name ain't Ribby. My name is Riddick. So he was playing with my name, and, you know, I let him know, listen, don't play with my name. He found out the hard way.
He certainly did. I said this to you the other night, and I'm going to say it to you again on camera. When people talk about Riddick Bowe, we had somebody here before we started the interview. He came, I think he was Australian. Mm-hmm. He came over and he said, on your night, you were as good as any heavyweight in history. And I believe that. I said that to you the other night, and he said it to you there. Why was your prime short, relatively short?
Because I listened to my manager, Rock Newman. And of course, I listened to him. That's why I was short. He made me to retire. He told me to retire. This, things will be better. I listened to him when I should have told him to kiss my ass and keep it moving, and I should have kept on fighting.
Did you always give it 100% in the gym? Were you always dedicated in the gym, or did you have times when you weren't as dedicated as maybe you could have been?
Listen, I know that when they told me to go to training camp, I did whatever I was supposed to do. Let me tell you something. Eddie Futch is a no-nonsense type of person. If I didn't do what he told me to do, he wouldn't have been there with me that long. So I don't know where people get to where I didn't train, I didn't do this, I didn't do that. That's just something Rock Newman wanted them to think, or whatever case may be. I don't know why. Because I did everything I was supposed to.
Now, we've mentioned his name a couple of times here, Lennox Lewis. Now, it's one of probably the heavyweight fight that got away, I think. I can't really think of many other heavyweight fights throughout boxing history, certainly in modern history, that people talk about not happening more than yourself and Lennox Lewis as a pro. What's your side of the story?
My thing is, Lennox didn't want to fight. He didn't want, he would tell the public he wanted to fight me and he wanted to do this and he wanted to do that, but he really didn't want to fight me. But I saw Lennox one day, and I said, look, man, I don't want to keep bickering with you or having arguments. Let's be friends. And they left it at that. He gave me a hug. I gave him a hug. And he's a friend of mine or an associate. So we just cool now.
That era of 90s heavyweights, I mean, I was, again, saying to some colleagues that there's two real golden eras of the heavyweights. There's
Holly and Frazier, George Foreman, yeah.
That era of the 70s, and then the 90s with yourself, with Lennox Lewis, with Holyfield, even the guys kind of underneath that when you've got Ruddock and fighters like that of that era. How do you feel being a part of that era? And people still, 30 years later, people are still coming up to you now and talking to you about it.
It's great. It's phenomenal. I just love Muhammad Ali so much. He's the father I never had. And because of him, I was able to do something and have fun with it and love life, I guess. You know, I had a ball.
What's your favorite Muhammad Ali moment?
When he came up to me, I couldn't see him. He said, come on, sucker. I said, man, get out my face. He said, I can take you. Come on, sucker. I was fighting for the Golden Gloves in New York City. I guess he just wanted me to turn around. I said, get out my face. So I don't know how he did it, but 5 minutes later, I guess he went away. 5 minutes later, I would hear this happening. Come on, sucker. Come on. And then I said to myself, I'm bust his ass. I turned around. Oh, he gave me this big old hug, man. And I went out there and knocked the guy in 24 seconds.
You were invigorated. You got the energy from Muhammad Ali.
My whole personal, everything just changed. When he gave me that hug, man, what you talking about? I could have went to heaven, man.
Now, taking yourself out of the equation, how do you rank Lennox Lewis, Mike Tyson, and Evander Holyfield. What order do they go in for you?
Well, I would have to say Holyfield's number one, and Lennox Lewis is second, and then Mike Tyson.
Why is that? Why in those order?
Well, I know Holyfield, no matter what you do to him or how you do it, he's going to be there. But they know that too. Lennox, I put him number two because he's the biggest of all of us, and I guess he proved that he was durable. He went to Disney with all of them. Mike isn't as durable as those guys because you know they knocked him out. So, but he was in his prime. He was the man. He was knocking everybody out. So I'll make Mike number three.
That version of Mike, kind of the late 80s Mike Tyson, the 88 Tyson, how good was that version of him?
I think Mike was still good at that particular time, but as we know, as time progressed, the things you do or how you do them, they don't stay with you. So all that, it fell. It didn't work no more.
Now, a fighter that we spoke about the other night, from our part of the world, a certain Herbie Hide, who you defeated to win the WBO title. What did you make of Herbie Hide?
Woo, child, what you talking about? Let me tell you something. No one has ever hit me as hard as Herbie Hide. He hit me with a combination, and everything went blank. But I think because he was so fast, you heard himself. He began to, wow! And then I came back and I said to myself, I got to do something different because I don't want him to hit me. And because of that, I was able to knock him out eventually.
Just having a little bit of airplane interference, but we're all good here in Acapulco. Now, a couple of fights that you had towards the end of your career with a certain Andrew Golota.
Right.
Quite strange fights to watch. I remember particularly the infamous low blows, and we spoke about it the other night, the riot in the crowd.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Well, it was crazy, but Andrew didn't want me to hurt him because everything I hit him with was devastating. He didn't want me to take his head off him, things of that nature. So he said to himself, how can I get out of here without having Bo kill me? And he started hitting me low. That's what happened. I saw him, I think it was Las Vegas, and Riddick, I'm so sorry. He was so apologetic to me about it. But then he explained to me what happened. He said, I didn't want you to knock me out because I was afraid and things of this nature.
Now, I know you were having quite a lot of issues behind the scenes when you fought Andrew Golota. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what was going on, really? I think people forget that fighters are human, real people with real problems. What was going on?
My family life was pulling apart and things of that nature. And, I had to deal with that as things went on and took place. And it is what it is. I had to let my ex-wife go and my kids go. I still love them, but I don't see them like I want to. I'm talking about my kids, but, Daddy still loves me.
You mentioned retiring from the sport before your time. Do you look back with any regrets?
Yeah. The only regret that I have is Rock Newman. I just don't think he paid me like I should have been paid. I really can't say nothing bad about him, but other than that, I mean, it is what it is.
What do you make of today's heavyweights?
I don't. I know they don't compare to my era. They don't compare to the Ali era, so I don't waste time.
Got Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua. What do you think to those fighters?
But see, those fighters, I know if you go to them, Wilder, he throw a jab every now and then. He couldn't get away with that with me. He couldn't get away with that with Mike Tyson. Mike is coming low, and he's coming to you. So I just know that era doesn't. Then Holyfield would catch, then pick them apart, cut them or whatever, and hit them with an uppercut, and eventually win the fight. So I know the new heavyweights couldn't deal with the old heavyweights.
Why do you think that is? We've got, like we've mentioned Deontay Wilder, but in the 90s and before then, America, the heavyweight champion of the world pretty much always came from America. We mentioned Ali, Larry Holmes, Frazier, right. Foreman, Bowe, Holyfield, Tyson. In the last 2 decades, really, the last 15 years, certainly, there's only really been Deontay Wilder. Why do you think that is? Why is America not producing the heavyweight champions that it used to?
Because they're not listening. If they were to listen, jab, right hand, hook, and you throw uppercut every now and then, they will be champions. They will maintain their titles. But if you have in your head to do it your way and not my way, I'm the trainer. Now, how we gonna get things done? That you're not listening. That's what that is.
The first time I met you was 4 years ago, I think. 4 or 5. 4 years ago.
And I'm still pretty too.
You're more pretty now than you were 4 years ago.
Say so,
you're maturing like a fine wine, Big Daddy.
Man, you all right.
And I met you in LA for Wilder Fury 1. What do you make of Tyson Fury now? Tyson Fury, I think, is considered by many. He's the WBC champion. He's the lineal champion. He's the man who beat the man. What do you make of him as a fighter?
I think he's a great fighter. He's the best of them all. But there are things he do that in my era, like that jerky. See, the thing is, if he jerky, I'm fire. And wait to see what he's gonna do. Jerky, fire. And guys aren't doing that. And so if they were to do that, they would beat him.
You've kind of stepped on my next question. My next question would have been to, how would you have approached fighting Tyson Fury?
And another thing, I'm gonna jab at him, then I'm gonna break his rib to him. Guys aren't going to his body. You let him stand strong, and as time progresses, he's keeping that posture, and you're not breaking them down. So you ain't busting his heart, you ain't stopping his liver and things of that nature. You gotta do the things that's gonna make them tired. They're not doing it.
Aside from a trip back home, which I know you're very much looking forward to, I know you're not looking forward to getting on 3 planes because you don't like flying.
I hate to fly. I just looking down, oh Lord, have mercy. Yeah, that's gotta look straight, man. I hate to look out the plane. And I guess that's just one of them things that being so high, man, if you come down, it's a wrap. So I've never really liked it, but I do it often, but I do it to survive.
What does the future look like for Riddick Bowe? What's the plan, Big Daddy?
Well, I'm about to come out of retirement.
Is that an exclusive for us?
Yeah, I'm about to come out. I know you guys would love to see me fight again. I stopped early, and I still feel like I have something to prove. So I'm coming out of retirement. All I can say is Tyson Fury, pull your head out your ass and get ready, because Big Daddy is coming.
Big Daddy is coming indeed. Riddick, it's been a real pleasure to be around you this week.
You didn't ask me when I was coming, when I was going to do all this.
When are you going to do it?
After dinner.
Thank you so much for your time, champ. It's always a pleasure to catch up with you and spend time around you this week. And I hope to see you soon.
This buzz to you, man. God bless you.